Cruel Nanny abuses black girl daily, but when the father discovers, he takes revenge in a cruel way. What happens when a father's trust in a nanny turns into a nightmare? This is the question that echoes in the mind of Thomas Walker, a widowed lawyer who believes he has found the perfect solution to care for his daughter, Maya. In a quiet small town in the United States, he struggles to balance his demanding career with the desire to provide a loving home for his 7-year-old daughter. Maya, a lively and curious black child, longs for her father's presence who, absorbed in his responsibilities, does not notice the shadow approaching their home. Thomas, always kind and ethical, seeks a nanny who can be an extension of his paternal love. He believes that Clara Jensen, a sweet-looking and experienced woman, would be the answer to his prayers. However, behind Clara's warm smile hides a bitter and prejudiced heart. While Thomas works long hours, innocent Maya finds herself trapped in a cycle of daily abuse, facing Clara's cruelty in silence. The home, which should be a safe haven, transforms into a place of fear and oppression, where Maya tries to survive the nanny's manipulations. The emotional dilemma that Thomas faces is profound. He finds himself torn between the need to trust Clara and the reality that slowly unfolds before his eyes. At the same time that he works hard to ensure a stable life for his daughter, he ignores the signs that something is terribly wrong. The relationship between father and daughter, already strained by the absence of the mother, becomes even more complicated as Maya struggles with a secret that consumes her. When the truth about Clara's abuse finally comes to light, Thomas is overwhelmed by guilt and pain. What he does next is not just a matter of justice, it is a quest for redemption. Using his legal knowledge, he devises a plan to expose the nanny and make her face the consequences of her actions. The story unfolds in a whirlwind of emotions, showing that the pursuit of justice can lead a father to confront not only the villain, but his own moral limits. Thomas, in his journey, finds himself questioning his beliefs about trust and protection. He realizes that the struggle for a better future for Maya is not just about ensuring her safety, but also about restoring her innocence and self-esteem. The relationship between father and daughter, marked by pain and overcoming, becomes the beating heart of the narrative, prompting the reader to reflect on family ties and what it truly means to be a protector in a world full of injustices. Thomas Walker was increasingly absorbed in his routine. The hours in the office dragged on, and the pressure to maintain his legal career consumed him. He wanted to be a good father to Maya, but the truth was that he felt more like a stranger in his own home. His daughter's laughter, once a constant melody, had been replaced by an unsettling silence. As the situation with Clara grew more oppressive, Maya's innocence was dissipating. Thomas began to notice small changes in his daughter's behavior. Maya, once full of energy and curiosity, now seemed hesitant. She avoided looking into her father's eyes and often retreated to her room. He thought it was just a normal phase for a child dealing with the absence of her mother, but a strange feeling began to grow inside him. He did not know that Clara was shaping Maya's life in an unbearable way, depriving her of the joy and love a child should feel. As time passed, the tension in the house escalated. Thomas, upon returning from work, tried to connect with Maya, but she would dodge him, burying herself in a world of drawings and books, as if she wanted to protect herself. He did not want to believe that Clara could harm his daughter, but something inside him whispered that he should pay attention. When he asked Maya about her day, she always responded with a forced smile and a vague answer. The disconnection between father and daughter became an open wound, and Thomas felt powerless. During this difficult time, Thomas relied on the support of his longtime friend, Sarah. She was a single mother who knew well the challenges of raising children alone. Sarah always encouraged Thomas to spend more time with Maya, to try to understand her emotional needs. She reminded him that, no matter how important his career was, his relationship with his daughter was invaluable. However, when Thomas began to open up about his concerns, Sarah encouraged him to give Clara another chance, saying that perhaps the nanny just needed an adjustment in her routine. This suggestion, although well-intentioned, left Thomas torn. He wanted to believe in Clara's goodness, but his instinct warned him about the reality. The days became an internal battle for Thomas. He struggled to maintain trust in Clara, but with each passing day, the unease in his heart grew more intense. One day, when he returned home early, he found her yelling at Maya. The girl's face was pale and tears streamed down her cheeks. Clara quickly turned around, her expression of surprise turning to anger upon seeing Thomas. "She is just a child, Thomas. You need to discipline her," Clara said, her voice loud and cutting. The scene left Thomas paralyzed. He felt the adrenaline rush and his heart race. He had never seen Clara like that. The image of his daughter crying hit him like a punch in the stomach, and he realized that something was very wrong. In that fraction of a second, a decision formed in his mind. He could no longer ignore the signs. Maya needed him, and he could not let fear dominate their home. In the following days, Thomas began to pay closer attention to every detail. He observed the interactions between Clara and Maya with a critical eye, trying to understand if he was seeing what was really happening. He also began to open up more to Maya, asking questions he had previously avoided. One night, while they were reading together, Maya finally allowed herself to speak. "Dad, sometimes Clara makes me feel sad. I don't like it when she yells," she confessed, her words trembling with the vulnerability of a child carrying a burden much greater than she should. The revelation was a devastating blow to Thomas. He felt a wave of guilt and despair. He realized he had failed in his primary responsibility as a father, to protect his daughter. The truth unfolding before him was clear, but the idea of confronting Clara terrified him. He knew it could mean a battle not only with the babysitter, but also with himself. The tension in the house intensified, and Thomas's internal struggle became a storm. He found himself caught between the desire to protect Maya and the fear of failing again. Every step forward felt like a risk, and he wondered if he would be strong enough to face what was to come. Thomas and Maya's story was about to change forever, but he still didn't know that the real struggle was just beginning. Thomas was in an emotional whirlwind. Maya's revelation, while liberating, left him with an even heavier weight in his heart. He felt like a failing father, unable to protect his daughter from the grasp of someone who should have been a caregiver. The nights became long and restless, filled with haunting thoughts. He knew he needed to take action, but the idea of confronting Clara left him paralyzed. The fear of what could happen if he took that step consumed him, and he wondered if he was ready for the consequences. The pressure at work was also mounting, with tight deadlines and demanding clients. The incessant calls and endless meetings made Thomas's daily life an unending cycle of stress. He tried not to bring work worries home, but the tension seeped into every aspect of his life. During the moments he sat down to dinner with Maya, he felt his heart tighten at the lack of sparkle in her eyes. The connection that once was so strong now seemed like a fragile thread about to snap. Sarah, his friend, noticed the change in Thomas. She had always been a constant support, but now she saw he was battling internal demons. "Thomas, you need to talk to Clara. You can't let this continue," she said in a candid conversation one day after work. Thomas hesitated, remembering Clara's explosive reaction when he found her yelling at Maya. A direct confrontation could bring unpredictable consequences, but he also knew he couldn't ignore his daughter's pain. "What if she doesn't react well? What if I end up making things worse?" he questioned, with a lump in his throat. "Sometimes we need to take risks to protect those we love," Sarah replied, firm in her convictions. His friend encouraged him to seek a solution, but Thomas felt lost. He didn't want to be the man who created conflict, but Maya's voice echoed in his mind. He needed to be strong, not just for himself, but for the daughter who needed a present and protective father. The situation at home worsened in the following days. Clara seemed to sense the change in the dynamic between father and daughter. She had become more defensive and less friendly, the tension hanging over the house like a storm about to break. Maya, on the other hand, was retreating even more. Thomas saw her pulling away, diving into her drawings as if the paper were an escape from a reality she couldn't bear. Thomas's heart broke seeing his daughter suffer, and the helplessness left him exhausted. One night, while Thomas tried to work on a project, he decided it was time to act. He could no longer wait. He needed to talk to Clara and understand what was happening. When he finally sat down with her in the living room, the tension was palpable. Clara sat with her arms crossed, a challenging look on her face. "What do you want?" she asked, in a tone that made it clear she was not willing to listen. "I want to talk about Maya," Thomas began, his voice steady despite the nervousness he felt. Clara reacted immediately, raising her defenses. "She needs discipline." "Children need limits, Thomas," she said, her expression hardening. "Disciplining is not yelling, Clara. I saw how you treated her. That's not right." The words came out with more force than he expected. The truth was laid bare, and he felt a mix of relief and fear. Clara, however, did not back down. She responded with anger, accusing Thomas of being a weak father, of not knowing how to raise his daughter. The argument escalated, and Thomas realized that every word she said was an attempt to destabilize him. With his heart racing, He understood that he was facing not only Clara, but also his own insecurities. He wanted to be a good father, but what if he was failing? What if his struggle to protect Maya only put her in more danger? Those thoughts tormented him, but he knew he had to persevere. In that moment, he decided he could no longer give in to fear. Thomas took a deep breath and said, "I will not allow you to treat Maya like that. She is a child and I need to protect her." The determination in his words shifted the atmosphere. For a brief moment, Clara seemed to hesitate. The tension between them was at a breaking point, and Thomas knew that his next action could define the future of his family. Before we continue with this gripping story, take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any stories. And let us know in the comments which city you're watching this video from. He felt that he had taken an important step, but the fear of the unknown still enveloped him. He was aware that the battle was just beginning, and that the road ahead would be filled with challenges. However, a new determination began to bloom within him. Thomas was not just fighting for Maya, but also for himself. He needed to find his place as a father and ensure that his daughter would smile again. That was the only thing that truly mattered. Thomas sat at the kitchen table, his gaze fixed on the cup of coffee that was slowly cooling. The silence in the house weighed like a dense cloud, and the echo of the last moments with Clara still resonated in his mind. He had taken a stand, faced the truth, but now he felt more lost than before. The argument had been intense, and Clara's words still haunted him. "A weak father," she had said. The phrase hammered in his head, making him question his choices. As he struggled with his thoughts, Maya walked into the kitchen, her gaze distant and sad. Thomas felt his heart tighten. He wanted his daughter to know that he was fighting for her, but at that moment, it seemed that his words were not enough to heal the pain Clara had caused. He stood up to hug her, but Maya dodged, going to the living room sofa. The gesture added even more weight to his chest. The night dragged on and Thomas couldn't sleep. He revisited the conversation with Clara, every word, every tone of voice like a movie playing in his mind. He knew he needed to act, but how could he do that without putting Maya in an even more difficult situation? What if Clara decided to take revenge in some way? Fear consumed him, but the determination to protect his daughter was also growing. The next day, Thomas went to work, but his mind was not focused on the tasks awaiting him. He barely heard the conversations around him and hardly saw the familiar faces. The weight of responsibility felt heavier than ever. When he opened his email, a message caught his attention. It was from Sarah, his friend. "Thomas, you need to know something," the message said. His heart raced. What else could happen? Opening the message, he read that Clara had been seen at a bar the night before, arguing with someone. Sarah didn't know the details, but the tone of her message was serious. "She is not well, Thomas. You should be on guard," she wrote. Thomas felt a chill in his stomach. This was not just a matter of discipline, but something much more serious. Clara was losing herself, and the worry for Maya intensified. With his mind racing, he decided he needed to talk to Sarah. He needed to better understand what was happening. They met at a cafe, and his friend wasted no time. "I saw her with a group of friends, but it seemed like they were arguing about something serious." "Thomas, you have to be honest with yourself. There is something deeper going on with Clara," Sarah said, looking directly into his eyes. The revelation shook Thomas. He had always thought Clara's problems were just a matter of discipline style, but now he was beginning to understand that there was much more at stake. He remembered the nights when she seemed distant, the times he found her distracted or absent. Clara was fighting her own battles, and this was directly affecting Maya. "I didn't know," Thomas murmured, his mind spinning with possibilities. He had never considered that Clara's problems could be deeper than how she dealt with Maya. This changed everything. He realized he needed not only to protect Maya, but also to help Clara find her way back. The responsibility he felt for his daughter now extended to the woman he had once loved. On the way home, Thomas felt different. Sarah's revelation served as a call to action. He could no longer see Clara merely as the strict and distant caregiver. He needed to look beyond that, to see the human being who was struggling with her own weaknesses. Now, he felt a new determination. It wasn't just about confronting Clara, but helping her face her own demons. Upon entering the house, he found Maya drawing again, lost in her world of colors. He sat down beside her and watched, admiring the purity and beauty of his daughter's creativity. "Maya, are you okay?" he asked softly. To his surprise, she looked at him and for the first time in days, offered a small smile. "I'm drawing a house where everyone is happy," she said, with a shy sparkle in her eyes. In that moment, Thomas knew he needed to talk to Clara, but not just about what was happening. He needed to approach the issue with compassion, with the intent to help, not to attack. He needed to be the father that Maya needed, but also the partner that Clara needed to face her struggles. Thomas took a deep breath and stood up. He was ready for whatever would come next. The battle was not over yet, but now he was not just fighting against Clara. He was fighting for a better future for all of them, and that gave him strength. Change was on the way, and Thomas was determined not to let fear paralyze him again. He knew the journey would be difficult, but for the first time in a long time, he felt that there was hope. Thomas felt a new weight in his heart as he walked toward Clara's room. The determination that drove him to face the situation was accompanied by a wave of insecurity. He knew the conversation would be difficult, but he was determined to open up and offer support. At the same time, the worry for Maya would not let him be at peace. How would his daughter react to all this? He knocked softly on Clara's bedroom door, and after a few moments of silence, decided to enter. Clara was sitting on the bed, her head down, lost in thought. The atmosphere was charged with palpable tension. He hesitated, but the desire to help overcame his fear. "Clara, we need to talk," he said, trying to sound calm. She lifted her head, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and anger. "About what, Thomas? About how you called me weak, or about how you don't understand anything I'm going through?" Thomas took a deep breath, feeling his heart tighten. "I'm not here to argue. I want to understand. Sarah told me you were at a bar last night, and that it seemed like you were going through something difficult." Clara seemed to hesitate, her eyes fixed on some distant point. "You don't know what it's like to be pressured to be perfect all the time. The expectations are heavy, and sometimes I just want to scream." He felt the pain in her words, and it hit him like a punch in the stomach. "I didn't know you felt this way. I just wanted to protect Maya, but now I see that maybe I've been selfish. I want to help you too." Tears began to slip down Clara's face. "Help? How are you going to help me, Thomas? You've always been the one who wanted me to be a perfect mother, and I've failed. I feel lost." Thomas felt it was time to open up. "I also feel lost. The truth is, we're all struggling in some way. I'm not the perfect dad, and you don't have to be the perfect mom. We can face this together." Clara looked at him, and for a moment the tension between them seemed to lessen. "You don't understand. I don't know how to deal with this. The pressure, the loneliness, it's all so overwhelming." He moved closer, placing his hand on her shoulder. "Let's start slow. We can seek help, therapy, talk to someone who can guide us. We don't have to do this alone." She hesitated, but the expression on her face began to change. "Do you really think this can help?" "Yes, I believe it can. We need to understand what's happening first before trying to change anything. We can't let this tear us apart." As the conversation flowed, Thomas realized that Clara's resistance was slowly dissipating. He knew there was still a long way to go, but for the first time in a long time he felt there was a light at the end of the tunnel. The idea of seeking help was no longer a sign of weakness, but a brave step toward healing. After that conversation, they agreed to seek family therapy. Thomas felt a momentary relief, but soon the reality of the consequences of his decisions hit him. He needed to find a way to communicate this to Maya, who was watching everything from a distance, with the gaze of a child, sensing the change in the air. When he sat down next to his daughter again, Thomas decided to be honest. "Maya, your mother and I are going through a tough time. We're trying to help each other, and this may take some time." The girl's expression was one of confusion. "But Daddy, what's happening? I just want us all to be happy." "I want that too, my love, and that's why we're trying to find a way to do this together. You can still count on me and your mother too." Maya looked at him with a mix of concern and hope. "You promised everything would be okay." He hugged her tightly, feeling her warmth. "I promise I will do my best. We will all work on this together. You are not alone." In the following days, Thomas's routine changed. He began to engage more with Maya, dedicating moments to play, draw, and talk. At the same time, he was preparing for the first therapy session. Nervousness accompanied him, but he knew it was a necessary step. Clara also began to open up, and their conversations became more frequent and honest. However, new obstacles arose. The memories of the argument still lingered in the air, and guilt frequently visited Thomas. He wondered if he was doing enough, if his attempts to help Clara were effective. One night, as he was getting ready for bed, he found himself wondering if he could truly be the father and ex-partner everyone needed. The uncertainties still haunted him, but the determination not to give up strengthened his spirit. He was aware that the journey would be long and full of challenges, but now he didn't carry that weight alone, and that, in itself, was already a big step forward. Thomas was at an emotional crossroads. Over the weeks he had worked hard to help Clara and reconnect with Maya. But as he delved deeper into therapy and sincere conversations, he realized that his greatest challenges were not just in external interactions, but also within himself. What did he really want? What did it mean to be a good father? He questioned himself, and this introspection made him feel an even greater weight. The first family therapy session was a milestone. Thomas walked into the room, nerves on edge. Next to him, Clara looked just as apprehensive as he did. They sat in a circle, and the therapist welcomed them with an understanding look. Thomas felt that in that space, all the feelings that had been bottled up for so long could finally be shared. The conversation started slowly. Clara talked about her insecurities as a mother, expressing her fear of not being enough. Thomas, in turn, opened his heart about the pressure he felt to keep the family united and happy. They laughed and cried together, and with each exchanged word, a layer of their emotional defenses began to unravel. In that room, Thomas realized that he was not alone. He was not the only one struggling against pressure and expectation. Clara's vulnerability touched him deeply, and he began to understand that his own struggle wasn't just about being a good father, but about accepting his imperfections and limitations. This was a valuable lesson he would carry with him. With each session, their relationship grew stronger. Thomas started to see Clara not just as the mother of his daughter, but as a woman with her own battles. He respected her more, and this helped him to be more understanding. Clara, in turn, began to realize that Thomas wasn't an authoritarian figure, but someone who was also learning to be better. Over time, the atmosphere at home began to change. The conversations between Thomas and Maya became deeper. He encouraged her to express her feelings, to share her fears and joys. Maya, who had previously felt like a spectator to the tensions, began to feel part of the process. This new dynamic brought a freshness to their relationship, and Thomas felt more confident in his role. One night, while they were drawing together, Maya looked at him with a serious expression. "Daddy, I feel like you and Mommy are happier. What happened?" Thomas smiled, surprised by his daughter's perception. "We're working on it, my little one. Sometimes we need to face our fears to find happiness." He realized that he was indeed starting to apply the lessons he had learned in therapy. The difficulties didn't magically disappear. Thomas still struggled with doubts and fears, but now he had the tools and support needed to face them. He learned to accept that failing was part of the growth process. When he encountered an obstacle, instead of feeling defeated, he sought new perspectives. This new understanding helped him see that success wasn't just about reaching goals, but about the journey that led him to them. Over time, conversations with Clara became more open and productive. They discussed plans for the future, and although there were uncertainties, there was a new hope in the air. They began to dream together again, imagining what they could build as co-parents despite the challenges. Their friendship evolved. The respect they cultivated in therapy transformed into a stronger bond, allowing them to support each other. Thomas realized that this renewed relationship not only benefited himself and Clara, but also created a healthier environment for Maya. The child was growing up in a home where love and understanding were priorities. Thomas felt grateful for having faced his challenges. He had learned that true wealth lies in human connections and the ability to love and be loved, despite flaws. He knew that the journey was still far from over, but now he faced the future with courage and hope. With each small step, he was rebuilding his life and becoming the person he always wanted to be, a present father, a supportive ex-partner, and above all, a constantly growing human being. Thomas was about to face the greatest challenge of his journey. Therapy had been a safe space, but now he found himself in a real setting where his words and actions would have direct consequences. It was the day of Maya's parent-teacher conference, a moment that had made him nervous since he received the invitation. The fear of being judged, of not fitting in, or of not being the father his daughter deserved, consumed him. Clara was also anxious. Since they began working together in therapy, she felt stronger, but there were still doubts in her heart. She knew this event was an opportunity to show everyone that they could be united parents despite the challenges they faced. Upon arriving at the school, Thomas and Clara exchanged glances, a mix of encouragement and insecurity. Maya was excited, holding each of their hands as if she wanted her parents to feel the happiness she felt. Inside the classroom, the desks were arranged in a semicircle. Thomas sat next to Clara while Maya settled in front, full of expectation. The teacher started talking about the children's progress and how they interacted with each other. Meanwhile, Thomas felt increasingly nervous. What if someone asked about the separation? What if he was questioned about his presence in his daughter's life? When the teacher invited parents to share experiences, Thomas's heart raced. He realized that this would be the moment to expose himself, to show that he was committed to being a better father. Clara also seemed hesitant, but he felt he could help her. With a deep sigh, he raised his hand. "I would like to speak," he said, his voice trembling slightly. All eyes turned to him. "I am Maya's father, and to be honest, I don't have all the answers. In the past few months, I've learned a lot about myself and what it means to be a good father. And to be frank, it's not just about being present, but about being truly connected." The murmurs in the room quieted. Thomas continued, feeling the need to be sincere. "Clara and I are going through a learning process. We want to be better for Maya. We recognize that we have failed in some areas, but we are here to do things differently. What we want most is for her to grow up in an environment where love and understanding are a priority." Clara, feeling Thomas's support, decided to join him. "It's true, and our journey is not perfect, but we are trying, and as parents, we believe it's important to be transparent about our struggles. We don't want Maya to feel like she has to carry the weight of our choices." The room was silent, and Thomas could feel the tension in the air. He was exposed, but he also felt a strange sense of freedom. He was no longer fighting alone. Clara's words echoed in his mind, and the connection they had worked to build felt stronger than ever. When the meeting ended, a few people approached to congratulate them. Thomas realized that he had shared not only his insecurities, but also a bit of his growth. He smiled at Clara, who returned his gaze with a look of pride. What had once seemed like an overwhelming challenge had now transformed into an opportunity to assert himself. On the way home, Maya was happy, talking about what she had learned at school. Thomas and Clara exchanged knowing glances, realizing that together they had done something meaningful. The conversation flowed easily, and for the first time in a long time, Thomas felt that they had taken a real step toward the future. That night, as they prepared for bed, Thomas sat next to Maya. "You know, my little one, being a dad is a constant learning process. Sometimes we make mistakes, but the important thing is to always try to do our best. And I want you to know that, no matter what, you are what matters most to me." Maya smiled, her eyes shining. "I know, Daddy, and I love both of you." Thomas felt a warmth in his heart. In that moment, he understood that he was on the right path. There were many lessons to learn, failures to overcome, but now he had the strength that came from vulnerability and honesty. He had found his place, not just as a father, but as part of a family that, despite its imperfections, came together in love and understanding. And so he found himself ready to face any challenge that might come next, with the certainty that together they could overcome any adversity. Thomas sat quietly, watching Maya as she played with her toys on the living room floor. The soft afternoon light streamed through the window, illuminating the girl's face, which looked so happy. Although the meeting at school had been a challenge, he felt he had taken an important step. The words he had shared now echoed in his mind. He had opened up, showing not only his insecurities but also his determination to be a better father. Clara entered the room, bringing a snack for the two of them. She looked at Thomas and smiled. You were amazing today," she said, sitting down next to him. "Speaking in front of everyone is never easy, but you did it from the heart. That matters a lot." Thomas nodded, a bit embarrassed. "I just said what I felt, and what matters most is that Maya heard us. I want her to know that we are here for her no matter what happens." He looked at his daughter, who was now smiling and talking excitedly about her school friends. "She deserves that." Clara took Thomas's hand, squeezing it gently. "And we deserve this chance too. Our family may be different, but that doesn't mean we can't be a good family." She paused, reflecting. "I also feel like I'm learning a lot from you, Thomas. Every day that passes, I see that we're making progress, even if it's small." Thomas considered her words. It was true. Their journey was not perfect, but each small step was taking them towards something better. He remembered the nights when he felt lost, the insecurity that consumed him. Now he felt that he had a purpose. Being a present and loving father was his priority. "Do you think the other parents understood what we said?" Thomas asked, his concern returning a bit. "I hope so," Clara replied. "But more importantly, what matters is that we understand. And Maya does too. She saw that we're trying and that we love her. That's what really counts." Deep down, Thomas knew that the journey wouldn't be easy. There would be tough days, moments when old insecurities might resurface, but looking at Clara and Maya, he realized that mutual support was key. They were in this together, and that made all the difference. The week passed, and Thomas made an effort to be more present in Maya's life. He started helping with homework, taking his daughter to the park, and participating in her activities. Each shared moment was an opportunity for connection. He noticed how Maya's happiness grew each day, and their relationship became stronger. One night, while they read together before bed, Maya looked at him with a sparkle in her eyes. "Daddy, you're the best. I love it when you read to me. Will you always do that?" Thomas smiled, feeling warmed inside. "Whenever you want, my little one. I'm here for you." He realized that these simple interactions were changing not just Maya's life, but his as well. He was learning to be a more present father and to cherish every little moment. The next day, Clara and Thomas met for an honest conversation. "I think we're on the right track," Clara said with a smile. "We're supporting each other and doing our best for Maya. That's what matters." "Yes," Thomas agreed, "and I want us to keep it that way. I want her to know she can always count on us, that no matter the difficulties, we will be here." Clara nodded, her eyes shining. "We are building a new story together, and that's amazing. No matter what happened in the past, we are creating a better future for Maya." Thomas felt a wave of hope. He knew things wouldn't be perfect, but now he understood that love and dedication could overcome many obstacles. Together, they were forming a new foundation, and that was the most important thing. While watching Maya have fun with a new activity at the park, Thomas realized that life was full of possibilities. He was not alone. He had Clara by his side and a daughter who radiated love, and with every step they took together, he felt they were becoming the family they had always wanted to be. Thomas watched Maya play in the park, his heart overflowing with gratitude. He remembered how lost and insecure he had felt before the school meeting, but now everything seemed different. He had opened up, shared his fears, and above all, decided to be a present father. This choice not only transformed his relationship with Maya, but also the family dynamic as a whole. The simple act of reading to his daughter at night had become a tradition that brought them together, and every laugh and every look of happiness from Maya was proof of their progress. Over time, Thomas became more than a father. He became a friend. He and Clara supported each other, facing challenges together and celebrating small victories. As the days went by, Thomas realized that Maya's happiness was a reflection of the love and unity they were building. He understood now that true success was not in material accomplishments, but in the quality of the time they spent together, the security they provided for their daughter, and the way they supported each other as a family. One afternoon, while walking back home, something unexpected happened. Thomas spotted one of the parents who had been skeptical during the school meeting. The man was talking with other parents, and Thomas felt a wave of anger as he remembered the disdainful words he had heard. However, instead of letting frustration take over, Thomas took a deep breath and decided it was time to act differently. He approached the group and with a smile began to share his experiences. He talked about the importance of empathy, understanding, and how every parent faces their own battles. To his surprise, people began to listen. What started as a tense conversation transformed into an open and honest dialogue. Thomas realized that his revenge was not about seeking approval or trying to forcefully change others' opinions, but rather showing that vulnerabilities could be the bridge to understanding. He was breaking down barriers, creating a space where others could feel safe to share their own stories. Instead of responding with hostility, he offered compassion and openness. On the way home, Thomas felt light. He understood that his journey not only transformed him, but also had the power to impact the community around him. He had learned that past failures do not define who we are. We have the ability to restart and grow from them. The true meaning of success was living with authenticity, love, and courage. That night, as they prepared for bed, Maya asked him to read a story. Thomas hugged her, and as their eyes met, he realized that true happiness was there, in that simple yet meaningful moment. He knew he had Clara's support and his daughter's love, and he was determined to continue this journey of growth. Life is made up of choices. Thomas made his. Now, he invites you to reflect on your own choices and the journey you are on. Share your experiences in the comments and inspire others to seek transformation in their lives. Every interaction matters, and by liking and subscribing to the channel, you join this community of growth and support. Don't wait any longer. The time to act is now. Together we can create a space where everyone feels valued and loved.